is either receding or has receded. There is also a hope that the third wave either may not come, or it seems we will be successful in restricting the spike of the third wave, so-called third wave. But from our personal lives to the rest of the world, entire world, Corona is an issue we will have to keep tracking for our detailed studies. I know that another slide is going to follow where there are 3 entries about Corona. There I'll say a couple of more sentences about Corona. Right now, I'm actually on the very first slide. I'm giving you 3 defining issues that practically cover the whole gamut of national issues. So Corona, the second one being Afghanistan. Right now, I will summarize the whole issue by saying that the single issue of Afghanistan indicates a root and branch restructuring of the world order. The whole world order is undergoing a major change. Obviously, India is connected with these questions of what kind of relationship to have with Taliban, whether to have any relationship, and formal or informal, from behind the curtains, and the discussion going on at Doha. But it also has a direct implication on India in terms of dangerous possibilities it opens up in Kashmir and resurgence of radical Islam or Islamic terrorism throughout the country. There isn't a shade of a doubt that China, Pakistan, and Taliban have formed what can rightly be described as axis of evil. And India, mind you, I'm saying whole India, not just Kashmir, but India is in the line of fire. So we will track, like all smaller details of Afghanistan. I know that there is one more slide over there, but right now allow me to say these 2 points over here. Our team, Chanakya Mandal team, has prepared a very careful and detailed write-up on the single issue of Corona. I have reason to think that it has been sent to you in digital format. So I will urge you to read it carefully. I don't need to say separately that, of course, I have read it and approved it, so it has been sent to you. How the single issue of Corona is important for us to keep tracking. Similarly, also allow me to hope that most of you people, I would like to think that all of you attended my special session on September 8th. That was, the cause was a different one. But for about 50 minutes, in a very focused manner, I have spoken on Afghanistan issue from what I would like to describe as a 360-degree view, all different dimensions and aspects. Now, some of you are already indicating to me that you have, so you know that that talk was in Marathi. But like most of us are comfortable with Marathi, so if for some reason you missed that session on September 8th, my request to you, of course, will be to go to the channel, find out that particular video and make it a point to watch it. And based on that, you want to raise questions, because Afghanistan is going to keep appearing again and again. Mind you, I must tell you that I find myself worried at even personal level. That's what I'm telling you. Even at it is way beyond like UPSC preparation, etc. The kind of danger. And therefore, I must also tell you that it's not like there in Afghanistan or Jammu Kashmir. The nurturing of radical Islamic jihadi terrorism, okay, goes on throughout the world. That includes India, that includes Maharashtra, that may include your and my personal life also. In that Marathi talk, I have made this point that Pakistan is the founding member of Taliban. Pakistan has been consistently using radical Islam as anti-India force. And there are intelligence reports of Pakistan nurtured sleeper cells in over 200 cities in India. They are waiting for the right signal. So there is a great danger, and India is going to have to confront it. And how we counter it is, of course, a complex issue which we will keep tracking. Third issue that defines national issues, whether you like it or not. You are free, whatever, let me say, whatever Nasruddin Shah says, or Javed Akhtar says, or what Amir Khan's ex-wife told him to say, whatever they say, irrespective of that, there is democracy in India. With all the problems, that democracy is vibrant. And there is most certainly the freedom of expression enshrined in Article 19. And again, with all our problems, which we will study, the judiciary is vibrant institution, which acts as the watchdog of the fundamental rights of common people. So exercising all that freedom of expression, you are perfectly free, okay, to dislike Modi government. But that government is there. Then whatever, again, sometimes Anna Hazare also may say, he made a statement yesterday that Modi government can be brought down if people want so. Okay, let him say so. He has the right to say so. But going by the logic of the democracy, Modi government is there till 2024. And what happens in 2024 may be defined by lots of factors. That, of course, includes how the country confronts Corona. But at the end of the day, basically, it is how the government performs. It's going to be decided on the basis of economy, job creation. So we will need to study and track the performance of Modi Sarkar like all the time. Various policies. I know that I have prepared some slides where I'm going to mention those programs. These are three core defining issues for understanding the national issues. So we take up one or two slides on that first issue. Think of Corona, for example. I don't think anyone can deny that India has undertaken a rather massive program of vaccination. During last 10 days, India has vaccinated over 13 crore people, mind you. This is more than the population of most of the countries in the world. There have been days when India vaccinated more than 1 crore people in a day. And then different variants keep coming up. The one that is supposed to be initiated in India was later on named as Delta variant. Initially, Bullshit Broadcasting Corporation went to the extent of calling it India virus. The same Bullshit Broadcasting Corporation won't say one word about the origin of the virus in Wuhan, and therefore would carefully avoid the word either Wuhan virus or China virus, etc. But the moment it comes to a variant in India, BBC had no qualms about calling it India variant. But for a change, there was a severe reaction to the whole thing. So that word took a backseat. And various variants in different countries of different dangerous degrees, we will keep tracking them. There is this vaccine hesitancy. The word to be understood here is vaccine hesitancy. All kinds of rumors, mind you. Rumors. In one of my previous session, although on a different batch, an intelligent student, I know that he is very intelligent, his questions are perceptive. He had sent me a question that a Nobel Prize winning virologist, make no mistake about it, someone as great an authority on virology, so a Nobel Prize winning French virologist has made a statement that everyone who has taken two vaccines, two shots, okay, is going to die in next 2 years. A statement by a Nobel Prize winning scientist, mind you. And I'm happy to see your smiling faces to this because you find it so preposterous, mind you. I also have taken 2 vaccine shots. I would like to think that most of you also have. And now when we know that 72 crore people in India have been vaccinated, to come to think of it, that a French Nobel Prize winning virologist says that everyone who has taken 2 shots is going to die in next 2 years. I know some elements in media are going to pick up deaths of some of the people and then say, look here, they are dying. But I picked up an extreme case to make a point that comments by some of the people, most of which happen to be rumors. I won't charge a Nobel Prize winning virologist as rumor mongering. So I don't know. The only answer I gave that student was, I don't know. I hope he's wrong. I hope he had a fight with his wife that day. So he came out and cursed the rest of the humanity, saying, all those who have taken 2 shots. But there are also political groups. For example, in American politics, the Republican Party is anti-vaccine. So there are reports that the states in America, the states which have Republican Party governor, they are either not getting people vaccinated or they are doing their level best to drag their feet on the question of vaccination. People are not getting vaccinated. I don't know whether you are attending to the statistics from America. It continues to be huge. There are days when America continues to report over 100,000 fresh cases and more than 3,000 deaths per day. And American health system also is cracking under pressure. But one part is this vaccine hesitation. The other part also is vaccine nationalism. That some countries would like to store different vaccines or declare a particular vaccine as more valid and a particular one subjected to different kinds of tests. We will have to study all of them. And the third sad point I want to make on this slide, which I have summarized in the words, India story disturbed. I am sad. I'm telling you, I'm even at personal level, I'm sad to share this, my formulation and abstraction. What Corona has done to India. My 3-word description is Corona has successfully disturbed the India story. But the time when I'm sharing this with you, that is now, it won't be wrong to conclude that we are probably on the path of comeback. Probably on the path of comeback. Still early days, so I won't jump to any conclusion. But it won't be wrong to say that in terms of vaccination, we seem to be doing a good job, and that needs to continue. Then the second wave was extremely painful. And in the second wave, there was a sharp spike in April. But I hope in your studies, you have noticed that the downward curve also was equally sharp. And the number of patients reduced. Now, although the problem continues, again, I keep my fingers crossed, but it may not be a wrong formulation that probably we are succeeding in controlling the third wave. And the experts have already started saying that even if the third wave comes up in, say, late September or October, it will not spike up, shoot up like the second wave. It will remain flat for a longer duration and as vaccination progresses. But I am sad to share this with you that for my collective vision, if I may use the words, I find India's story disturbed. And including our UPSC preparation, I must tell you, I'm really sharing my heart with you when I say this, that I find myself disturbed over this. See, I have to do this job of trying to summarize the whole issue. So let me try it. Before Corona struck, okay, so the first cases of Corona were reported from China, and they are as early as November 2019. But when it comes to India, we started hearing about the cases in, say, January 2020. First cases reported were from Kerala. And I do personally happen to remember that period like distinctly. And then it is on March 10, 2020, that World Health Organization declared Corona as a world pandemic. The word used is pandemic, March 10. Now, until March 2020, India was considered a fast rising country in the world, mind you. India was a happening place. Now, on a later slide, we are going to see that GST was introduced in July 2017. It went into effect from July 2017. It was an expected result that for first 2 years, the economy may take a hit. The GDP growth rate may go down. But that is a process of bouncing back. And when we try to build our muscle and start taking exercises at personal level, initially we lose weight. Not because we are growing weak, but because unwanted fat is being shed. And then the muscular development picks up. Now, this was an expected result of introducing GST. But as of 2017, India was world's fastest growing major economy. India had overtaken even China in GDP growth rate. That would also mean job creation, etc. I don't think even worst of the critics can deny that until then, India was a rising story. India was being increasingly taken seriously all over the world. As always, the single topic can go on for 1.5 hours. But as briefly as possible, I will cite just 2 examples. One is the acceptance of yoga by the whole world and its delightful celebration every 21st of June, beginning with 2015. That is the projection of India's soft power. Second example I'm picking up is this terrorist attack on our CRPF convoy at Pulwama on February 14, 2019. And India staged a counter-attack to destroy the Lashkar-e-Taiba base in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, KPK province, at the place known as Balakot. This is a very aggressive counter-action. On that day, February 26, 2019, I conducted a special session for UPSC batch right here, and in English gave a 30-minute comment on that incident. Later on, we also conducted a public meeting in Ganesh Kala Krida, and that was attended by over like 3,000 of people, where I have spoken in Marathi on the meaning of this attack at Balakot. I'm summarizing that meaning in 2 words, and that is game changer. India's counterattack was a game changer. Unfortunately, until then, India was seen as a country that takes terrorism lying down. That Pakistan-sponsored, Lashkar-e-Taiba trained 10 terrorists attack India in Mumbai on November 26, 2008, hold Mumbai to ransom for more than 3 days, cause an economic damage of over 10,000 crores, end up by killing more than 200 innocent people. And what India does is to do nothing. Nothing. Only our brave, like police, soldiers, and commandos ended up by killing these 10 terrorists. But we did not make Pakistan pay the price. That was always Pakistan's strategy. That strategy has been best described as bleeding India with 1,000 cuts. Sponsoring terrorism in India. Do not take on India in a military way, because when and if it comes to conventional warfare, Pakistan stands absolutely no chance against India. Pakistan can never win a conventional war against India. So the strategy that Pakistan has followed from after 1971, the defeat in Bangladesh, the summary description of that strategy is terrorism at the front and nuclear weapons at the back. So during these years, whenever there was a Pak-sponsored terrorist attack executed on Indian soil, we were always told to respond with what is euphemistically called as strategic restraint. And the simple logic of that strategic restraint was that if we retaliate, there will be escalation. And escalation may result into war. And war means nuclear war. So let's not retaliate. That was the summary. Now this paradigm, retaliation means escalation. Escalation means war. And war would invariably result into nuclear war, so no one can win it. It is MAD, M-A-D, mutual assured destruction. So let us not retaliate. Now, personally, during all these years, I have always been saying that we should retaliate. It's not that simple. Pakistan will have to be on guard. Let us call their nuclear bluff. So I must again tell you that personally I'm happy that India did it on February 26, 2019. And that I hope some of you may remember that it is the death anniversary of Swatantravir Savarkar, the one who dreamt of a strong India. India retaliated on that day, dropped a bomb crossing into Pakistani airspace and dropped a bomb at Balakot, killing like 250 to 300, supposedly the terrorists. Now, the point I'm making is until Corona hit, India's story was on the rise and India was being considered as like upcoming power in the world. Now, that makes me sad to share with you that the momentum of that story, the rhythm of that story is disturbed. I'm not saying lost. In fact, the time when I'm talking to you, it won't be wrong to say that we seem to be recovering that. Like on further slides, we are going to see that perhaps Indian economy is back on tracks. Prime Minister said so 2 days ago. You are free to believe or not to believe. But the recent quarter's growth rate has been over 20% as compared to the last year when it was a full lockdown time. Okay. But it's an undeniable fact that Corona has badly affected economy. Millions of people lost their jobs. And now we are struggling hard to come back. So kind of the India story disturbed. I use the terms momentum. India had a momentum going in favor of it in pre-Corona times. I also use the term rhythm. There is a rhythm. And like all national activities were meshing together to develop India's story. India was a happening place, mind you. There were times when India was also setting agenda for the world. Actually, on this point also, I can go on for 1.5 hours. It is Prime Minister Modi who got G20 together and got them to define terrorism and the states which may sponsor terror, and also come up with like coordinated action amongst different countries, because terrorism is a transnational phenomenon. And eventually FATF, Financial Action Task Force, the United Nations body to monitor terror funding, got Pakistan on a watch list that is called the grey list. And the points will continue like this, mind you. But I am saying it like for 4th or 5th time that India story got disturbed. And when I'm talking to you, we are struggling hard to come back. Now, Afghanistan, as I have already stated, indicates changing world order. The post-Second World War world was defined by superpower rivalry, USA versus USSR. Capitalism versus communism. Liberal democracy versus single party rule. And lastly, NATO versus Warsaw Pact countries. This period is aptly defined as Cold War. And that Cold War is said to have come to a conclusion by August 1991. That is when USSR collapsed, disintegrated. And there was no Soviet Russia. Therefore, the second superpower, which was challenging USA in every sense of that, wasn't there. America emerged as the single superpower, supercop. In the history of humanity, as we understand, emergence of USA as a single superpower. And then it won't be wrong to say that events unfolding in Afghanistan may be indicating loss of America's position as the only superpower of the world. A 20-year war, which in military and ideological both terms America will have to be said to have lost, also may indicate decline of America, US in decline. And at the same time, rise of China, we have seen in earlier sessions, and we have used the term and understood, I hope we have understood the term Thucydides trap and all. So Afghanistan indicates change in world order. And it's in a flux. So we don't know whether emerging world order will be bipolar, that is between US and China. And will it be Cold War II, making it necessary for India to follow what can be described as non-alignment to the principle of foreign policy? Or will it be multilateral, henceforth no bilateral, no two poles, there will be many. And India will be one major world power. So will be EU. And perhaps the African Union, so on and so forth. Remains to be seen. But the world order is changing. And there is a mathematical possibility that China may come up to dominate the world order. That what is happening may turn out to be, when like 20, 30 years from now on, we look back on this period. And there perhaps the students and historians may have to say that this America's retreat from Afghanistan was a defining moment for the end of America-dominated world order and its slow replacement with the China-dominated world order. All in a flux. There are no final conclusions right now, but it's possible this may be happening. That dollar may get weakened. And world has accepted dollar as informal global currency. That may change. I hope you are noticing that Sri Lanka has entered into an agreement with China for a bilateral trade in yuan, that is Chinese currency. And while IMF and America initiated global institution has what I have described in previous session as currency basket, the accepted global currencies. It had dollar, it had EU, euro. Okay, it has recently added yuan. So in times to come, will yuan be replaced with dollar? And then these America dominated and America created institutional framework of the world, mind you. Okay, there is no missing the fact that even United Nations has been America dominated. That until 1971, 4 out of 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council belong to NATO. USA, Britain, France, and China, the seat that was occupied by Taiwan at that point of time. And then it changed. Then Taiwan's seat went to People's Republic of China, but still 3. So UN and US dominated UN. Then the international economic structure, that is IMF and World Bank. And China has already made an attempt to raise its own institutional infrastructure. For example, the Shanghai Cooperation Group Organization, SCO, of which India is a member. Or AIIB, Asia Investment Infrastructure Bank, a China-initiated bank, again, of which India is a shareholder. Or a trade bloc consisting of countries in the Indo-Pacific region, including Southeast Asian countries, which have already organized themselves as ASEAN, ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. That trade bloc is called RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. So while the world is always in a flux, make no mistake about it, the world is always in a flux, transition. There never is a period when that flux or transition is over. Like our personal life is always in transition. That transition is never complete. It's like the mathematical equation f of x tends to infinity. So it just continues. All we have to do is to define that flux. That's what we are doing. And a brief description of that is changing world order. The shape is yet to emerge, but I have just defined some of the possibilities. Similarly, there is this question about dealing with Taliban, whether to confer formal diplomatic recognition or not, whether to establish diplomatic relationship or not. China has already done it. India's policy as of today is described as wait and watch. And Taliban's interior minister, that is the home minister, is a proclaimed international terrorist, Sirajuddin Haqqani. It's like Dawood becoming home minister of India, or Osama bin Laden, defense minister of Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. But Afghanistan has thrown these challenges. When there is India context, the context is, to start with, sadly, very clear. Actually, India must be ready to take on Pak-sponsored, Taliban-executed terrorism, first of all in Kashmir Valley. I hope you people are already noticing the news that Pakistani Army and Air Force actually entered Afghanistan to help Taliban defeat the Northern Alliance in the Panjshir Valley. Northern Alliance, NA, is that group which successfully fought Taliban in its earlier version also after 1993. The leader of Northern Alliance was Ahmad Shah Massoud. He was killed by suicide bombers of Al-Qaeda on September 9, 2001. That is just 2 days before 9/11. And the world is observing completion of 20 years, 20 saal baad, of that 9/11 event. That Northern Alliance had a solid base in Panjshir Valley. And it was expected that Taliban simply cannot defeat Northern Alliance in Panjshir Valley. As a matter of fact, Northern Alliance was backed by India and Russia. But now there have been confirmed reports that Pakistani army entered Afghanistan, that is Panjshir Valley, under the cover of the Pakistani Air Force also, and that is how Northern Alliance also folded up and was liquidated from Panjshir Valley. Taliban, nobody is denying the fact that Taliban has demolished Northern Alliance in Panjshir Valley. And then there are reports that there is a tacit understanding between Pakistan and Taliban. That understanding is best and dangerously described as Panjshir for Kashmir. That Pakistan will help Taliban capture Panjshir Valley, and in return for that, Taliban will be Pakistan's instrument of cross-border terrorism in Kashmir Valley. And then what I have already stated is this Pakistan-sponsored Talibani terrorism will not remain restricted to Kashmir Valley alone. It can hit rest of the country also. And I do hope that you are noticing the news that say 2 women, both of them converts from Hinduism into Islam, were operatives of ISIS in Kerala. And the investigations are on. So we are looking at a great danger. There is no doubt about it. Then, of course, we will have to track the functioning of Modi Sarkar. And the second time Modi Sarkar has been formed. On other slides that follow, I have enlisted some of the programs just to bring them to your notice. But our constant work, of course, will be to study, track, evaluate the performance of Modi Sarkar. Now, you will have every reason to kind of feel surprised that when Modi Sarkar came back to power in 2019, please hold your breath. This was the first government to have ruled for 5 years and come back to power. Okay? A prime minister who was a prime minister for 5 years and his party or government governed for 5 years and was returned elected with majority. That is kind of trust vote by people. People return them with a greater margin, mind you. Again, someone may like it or not. It's an objective fact that even BJP seats went up. What happened to NDA is something for us to study, like Telugu Desam got out of NDA. And over the issue of formation of Maharashtra Vikas Agadi government in Maharashtra, Shiva Sena walked out of NDA. And Nitish Kumar had earlier walked out of NDA, but after BJP's resounding victory in Uttar Pradesh, Nitish Kumar walked back into NDA, and there was NDA government in Bihar that came back. And right now also Nitish Kumar is like making some important political noises, and experts are interpreting it is whether he is again aiming at walking out of NDA, whether he wants to emerge as the challenger to Modi in 2024. One challenger has already emerged. That's a political fact, and that is Mamata Banerjee. But whether Nitish Kumar wants the role, Akhilesh Yadav wants the role, Mayawati wants the role is something to be seen in days, months, and time to come. But I hope you have got the point. When Modi Sarkar came back to power in 2019, was voted back to power in 2019, okay, it was for the first time after 1962 that a sitting government and the prime minister were voted back to power. Sitting government for 5 years and under the leadership of the same prime minister, either the same group or the same party voted back to power. Last time that can be said to have happened was as back as 1962, mind you. After that, it has never happened. 1967, Pandit ji had passed away and Congress did win and Indira ji became the prime minister. But that Congress split. And then the Congress under Indira ji was a minority government supported on 2 sides by Muslim League and Communist parties. So when Indira ji called a snap election, it was a midterm election in 1970. She was not a sitting prime minister enjoying the majority in Lok Sabha. She was a prime minister in minority. Then in 1970-71 election, she got resounding majority, more than 2/3 seats in Lok Sabha. But that followed with anti-corruption movement all over India under Jayaprakash Narayan's leadership. Also, electoral offence against Indira Ji declared to be proven by Allahabad High Court on 12th of June 1975. Overall, that resulted into emergency, cancellation of elections and all. And the next elections that happened were 1977. There, all non-Congress, non-communist parties came together to form a single party, then called as Janata Paksha Party. People voted that to power. Okay. Unfortunately, that party split into many splinters within less than 2.5 years. I will have to summarize the story, I must tell you. No sitting prime minister with majority was re-elected since 1962 in every next election. Okay. So then in 1979, Indira Ji came back to power again with 2/3 majority. But unfortunately, she was assassinated on 31st of October 1984. And so the elections that followed were under Rajiv Gandhi's leadership. And of course, Congress got the maximum votes ever, mind you. In the elections of November, December 1984, Congress got maximum votes ever and maximum number of seats ever. Okay, but then in the next election, 1989, the Nehru centenary year, people defeated Congress. Congress tally came below 200. And the story will continue, mind you. The story will continue like this. Vishwanath Pratap Singh of Janata Dal could become prime minister with the help of BJP from outside the government. That government collapsed thanks to the Advani-led Ratha Yatra. Then Chandrasekhar, with about 40 MPs, became prime minister because he was supported by the Congress party from outside. That government collapsed in 1991, and the elections that happened also saw unfortunate assassination of Rajiv Gandhi on May 21, 1991. And Congress government came to power, but it was a minority government. P.V. Narasimha Rao became the prime minister. He somehow managed to handle the government and also work into majority and remain there till 96. But in 1996, Congress lost the election. BJP emerged as the largest single party, but way away from clear majority. So there was a 13-day BJP government headed by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. That government failed to establish majority, so it resigned. And the National Front, Left Front government came to power. That barely remained there for a year and a half, and that government collapsed, causing another Lok Sabha election. This time again, BJP emerged as the largest single party. This time aptly supported by other parties that formed the NDA. So there was a NDA government with BJP as the largest single party and of course headed by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. But that government remained for 13 months. And no confidence motion against NDA government was proven in April 1999. And in October, there were elections in which again BJP emerged as the largest single party. NDA emerged stronger. That was NDA government that survived 5 years. All these 5 years, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister. And then comes 2004. Now, in the elections of 2004, May 2004, everyone expected NDA to come back to power, BJP seats to go up, and Vajpayee to become the prime minister again. Had that happened, then after 1962, he would have been the first prime minister to come back to power after 5 years. But mind you, Atal Bihari Vajpayee did not have his own majority. But 2004 elections threw surprise. NDA lost. BJP also reduced its number of seats. Congress gained. That was when UPA was formed, and Congress emerged as the largest single party. Then, as you are expected to know, that in 2009 elections, again UPA won, but it was not a majority government, neither between 2004 to 9, nor 9 to 40. So I have kind of done a good job. It's a glimpse of India's political development. The point I made is the 2019 NDA/BJP victory, a sitting prime minister with his own majority, voted back to power by people. That happened for the last time in 1962. So we will keep tracking the Modi government. In Modi's Sarkar 1, his main slogan, so to say, was Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas. But in Modi Sarkar 2, he has added the word Sabka Vikas. And we need to hold Modi Sarkar to these words and then critically examine his policies, and are they resulting into Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, and then Sabka Vikas. Now, a couple of slides that follow are only aimed at just drawing your attention to some important phrases or some important like policies and programs of Modi Sarkar. And there are many such, but I have made it a point to summarize and just enlist them. So one critical one is this objective of maximum governance, but minimum government. Then an unusual, and personally I would like to describe that as creative undertaking by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in form of his monthly address to the country, and the program is called as Man Ki Baat. You are free to appreciate, you are free not to appreciate, but the Prime Minister directly talking to the people like this. Okay? One can say that in a different way through the media that existed at that point of time, Nehru used to do this. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru used to do this. Or he used to write public letters or letters to the chief ministers, and they have been published, etc. But a simultaneous telecast on radio and TV, and also an appeal to the people as to please give me your suggestions about what are the topics on which you would like me to speak. And I don't know whether you people are listening to Man Ki Baat or not. During the first 5 years of Man Ki Baat, selected excerpts have been published in form of a book. I also don't know whether you people remember a particular campaign announced by Prime Minister during the first tenure, and that was called the Selfie with Daughter. This was aimed at welcoming a daughter's birth into the family, that a daughter is a pride, beti bachao, beti padhao, beti ghar ki, dhan ki peti. So a small idea about selfie with the daughter, and it had caught on. That was during the first tenure. Or like in his talks, he goes on talking about very creative undertakings by commonest of the common people throughout the country. Now, he has not conducted a single press conference during last 7 years. He doesn't talk to press. Okay? He either talks directly to people. That could be his Twitter handle or Facebook Live, etc. or Man Ki Baat. But he doesn't talk to press. 7 years and not a single press conference. That single issue is very complex and that can be discussed as and when we proceed. But recently, Taliban conducted a press conference. And then, of course, there were media elements in India who said Taliban is improving. Taliban is changing. Now, Taliban is good boys. These are the people who would side with Taliban to oppose Modi government. And I don't know whether you have come across this, I call as ridiculous, dangerously ridiculous level, where some like commentators with name and fame have described Taliban as better than Prime Minister Modi because Taliban conducted press conference. What a height of creativity. But we will keep tracking. Similarly, there is this website mygovernment.in, mygov.in is a direct digital undertaking to involve people into the task of administration. Once again, I must tell you that I don't know whether you people have visited mygovernment.in. Anyone can and enroll, register, and be a part of, on the higher side, 5 groups on mygovernment.in, depending on your interest. So you want to be part of educational group, women's empowerment, social position of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, whichever group you want to select, 5 groups you are allowed to. And then you can, there are bulletin boards, you can pass on your suggestions. And there have been instances that the Prime Minister has either formed a program based on the suggestions that were received in MyGov or referred to them as creative undertakings in different parts of the country. The feedback he received from mygovernment.in. Then after 2014, and that continues even today, the first phrase can describe, subject to again critique and if required criticism also, that it is cooperative federalism and competitive federalism. These are also the terms used by Prime Minister. They are delightfully simple. Cooperative federalism would mean states and the center coming together irrespective of party political lines and driving the development of the country together. Cooperative federalism also means a promise, especially by the central, that is BJP government, that non-BJP governments in the states will not be unfairly treated. Now, we can always track whether that is happening or not. And there could always be many opinions about it. But the concept of cooperative federalism. And similarly, competitive federalism would mean a healthy competition amongst the states and also between state and the center as to who develops the country at a faster pace. So like there could be DMK or AIADMK government in Tamil Nadu and UPA or LDF, Left Development Front government in Kerala. Or again Janata Dal U or Deve Gowda government or BJP government in Karnataka. TRS, Telangana Rashtriya Samiti government in, say, Telangana. TDP, Telugu Desam government, or now the Congress Reddy, with Jagan Reddy as the chief minister. And so on, I can go on talking like this for the whole country. Point is, central government is BJP's government. And if there is a non-BJP government at the state, the promise that those states will not be unfairly treated. But in fact, we will come together to see who develops one's own state at a faster pace, who undertakes more creative schemes. So the era of cooperative and competitive federalism. Similarly, establishment of Niti Aayog and the functioning we will keep tracking is a landmark development, because until that happened in 2015, since 1950, India's economic planning was centralized in this institution named Planning Commission. Planning Commission, as I expect you to know, Planning Commission is neither constitutional nor statutory. It came into being in 1950 with an administrative order. But when India followed the socialistic pattern of society, increasingly on the path of socialism, also resulting into nationalization, it was the state-controlled economy. Then the country saw planning commission become stronger than most of the constitutional or statutory bodies. So it's a decisive break when that planning commission was eventually dissolved to create the National Institute for Transformation of India, NITI, and it has come to be called the Niti Aayog. It is recommendatory. No more 5-year plannings. The last 5-year plan that India saw was the 12th 5-year plan. Its time frame was 2012 to 2017. And though BJP government came to power in 2014, it did not break the ongoing 12th 5-year plan midway through. It allowed that plan to complete. And then now there is a system of perspective planning. That Niti Aayog will have its own study groups. And for different fields, it may prepare a 15-year perspective plan. That 15-year perspective plan may be translated into a 7-year executive plan. And that may then reflect in each budget, annual plan. That is how the country's planning and implementation process now goes on. So the importance of Niti Aayog, and we will keep tracking it. Similarly, this famous trinity is a very important integral part of functioning of Modi Sarkar. It's not like Modi Sarkar put it in place. All these ideas were already being discussed, or some of them implemented during even UPA government. But Modi Sarkar brought them all together to create synergy, JAM. It is Jana Dhana, the bank accounts of crores and crores of common people who never had a bank account. And banking services were not available for them. So Jana Dhana. Then Aadhaar, that single issue of Aadhaar is worth a 1.5 hour session. So Aadhaar, the undertaking that started during UPA government, but link it with Jana Dhana and also mobile. Now, India practically has a mobile per person. Practically. So the three could be connected to have a corruption-free delivery of the benefits of various development schemes directly to the beneficiary. That is called DCT or DBT. That stands for direct cash transfer. If there are some specific development schemes where government transfers cash to the beneficiary, say below poverty line beneficiary. Earlier, there was a whole bureaucratic system through which the funds would pass. That is what had made Rajiv Gandhi as Prime Minister say in 1985 that for every rupee dispatched for the benefit of the last beneficiary, okay, only 15 paise reach him. All the middlemen or the system or corruption, pilferages, leakages, etc. eat up 85. But it was Nitish Kumar as Chief Minister of Bihar who initiated this concept of direct cash transfer or direct benefit transfer in Bihar. It started first in Bihar. And then it was picked up at the national level. So for the delivery of various developmental schemes. Among like hundreds of things that we may speak, I do hope that you people know that there is a subsidy on gas cylinders, and then Prime Minister made an appeal for the people to voluntarily forego this subsidy if they can financially afford it. And crores of people responded, saving thousands of crores of rupees of the country. But this subsidy is also directly deposited into the beneficiary's account. So DCT or DBT. Then another three absolutely defining and landmark decisions of Modi government. Each one continues to reverberate and still have effect. Demonetization. So cancellation of 500 and 1000 rupee notes. That was declared on this fatal day of November 8, 2016. I am not calling it fatal because demonetization was declared on that day. I am choosing to call it fatal because this also is precisely the day Donald Trump got elected as US president, the same day. And we will study that issue and continue to study. Then, two of the most important constitutional amendments since the Constitution went into effect. These are two. Would you allow me to say again that all three issues listed on this slide, okay, each one deserves a full 1.5 hour session for even the brief discussion. 101st Amendment is the Goods and Services Tax. So initially, there were various taxes with various slabs on goods. Most of them within the purview of the state government, but the center also having authority to raise taxes on goods. There was no service tax until 1993. Service tax was introduced in the Finance Act, that is the annual budget of 1993. And I do expect by now, you, having studied the Constitution enough to know that such an all India tax on an entire sector can only be levied by the central government. So service tax becomes the central tax, creating a plethora of taxes, different taxes for goods, different slabs, and different in state and different in center, complicating the whole tax structure. And add to that the service tax. So India's tax structure had become unwieldy and extremely complex. So the Kelkar committee was appointed. This is the single person, Dr. Vijay Kelkar, one of the best economists that independent India has produced. Kelkar committee came out with lots of recommendations for direct tax and indirect tax. The functioning and the recommendations of the single committee are worth a full session. But probably the most important recommendation is to merge goods and service taxes and create a single tax for the entire country. GST, Goods and Services Tax. That started being discussed from 2007, the first UPA government. But until UPA government was there, somehow it could not iron out various differences and GST did not go into action. But various differences of opinion were ironed out and the constitutional amendment to initiate GST was done in September 2016. And that amendment itself set the date that GST will be rolled out from 1st of July 2017. I do hope that your mind reminds you of another landmark, for better or for worse, a massive decision on November 8, 2016, demonetization. Okay? That had shaken the entire economy. So even pro-BJP people and experts were suggesting BJP to defer the starting point of implementation of GST. That the economy is already shaken, let it stabilize first, and then you start it. But I do expect you to know that any constitutional amendment has to go into action within 1 year from the date of its passage. If that doesn't happen, then that amendment would lapse. So the BJP government it was mandatory to get GST into action before mid-September 2017. The committed date was 1st of July 2017. The government kept its word and GST was rolled out. Various political discussions will go on, etc. But among all of them, I do want to pick up just one point. Dr. Vijay Kelkar had recommended that initially there should be only one rate of GST. Start rolling out of GST with a single rate. Stabilize GST regime. And once that is done, then you may increase the slabs. But government in its wisdom chose to have 5 slabs. And without passing any deep critical comment, I hope I am just stating a fact that there were lots of problems in initial implementation. Most of them contributed to by this variety of slabs. But with all problems and the critical examination of GST that will go on, may again make no mistake, GST is the greatest tax reform since independence. Not one of the greatest, the greatest. And again, across very many points, the single most important one I'm picking up to share with you is that GST turns entire India into a single market, a single open market without internal barriers. That makes India world's largest unified market. And if that domestic strength can be properly articulated, that will add to India's rise at the world level. And similarly, from constitutional point of view, another landmark constitutional amendment, which I repeat, will continue to reverberate for a long, long time to come, was 103rd constitutional amendment, the last so far, or there is now a 104th, you will have to study it. That was in January 2019. And this is 10% reservations for economically weaker sections from open category. How many times am I saying that a single issue is worth a 1.5 hour session? The whole issue of policy of reservations. Those who are more curious may care to listen to my 2-hour talk, though in Marathi, on our YouTube channel. That talk is titled as Suvarna Yugache Swapna आणि राखीव जागांचा प्रश्न. Right now, I'm still making my valiant attempt to summarize this issue. The reservations for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, SC/ST, okay, are enshrined in the Constitution. Chapter 3, Fundamental Rights. So it is a basic structure of the Constitution. And then Article 17, 18 go on to say that the government may undertake such like affirmative programs for socially and educationally backward classes, SEBC. In good time, that SEBC comes to be described as OBC. And once again, I do expect you to be carefully noticing all ongoing constitutional and political developments also pertaining to OBC reservations. The Supreme Court decision in Vikas Gauli and others, Supreme Court decided, that was also based on another 2010 decision, that is Krishnamurthy case, based on that. But there at least is a provision in the third chapter. So I repeat, the fundamental rights. So basic structure of the Constitution, SEBC. Okay. But part 3 and or the basic structure doctrine has no place for economically weaker sections, reservations for economical. They are there in a latter part of the Constitution. But a constitutional amendment did come up, 103rd. Its implementation has already begun, including in UPSC, MPSC and all. Its constitutional validity has been challenged, but it remains to be seen as to what happens. There is going to be another slide, I know it is there, where I have referred to various social agitations for the demand of reservations. So Jats in Haryana are demanding to be declared as OBC and have reservations. Gujjars in Rajasthan, Patels in Gujarat, and as of course I do expect you to know that the Maratha community in Maharashtra has been making the same demand, and it goes on throughout the country. So that issue, the social turmoil is there, and most of the castes which may not be part of SC or ST, and the whole constitutional issue of who gets to decide which is a backward caste or class. And there is this constitutional amendment upgrading the backward class commission from statutory to constitutional commission. And once that happened, until very recently, the authority to declare any, say, caste or class as backward rested with the National Backward Class Commission. That was one of the grounds why Maratha community could not be declared to have the benefit of reservations, because state government did not have the authority to declare a particular community as backward class or caste. Then again, as usual, I expect you to have noticed that very recently, Lok Sabha has unanimously effected this constitutional amendment, empowering the states to decide which social group can be declared as a backward class or caste, etc. So the whole turmoil. There is going to be a slide later on, but I thought of connecting it right here. Here are some flagship programs undertaken by Modi Sarkar. I am placing Swachh Bharat Abhiyan at indeed number 1. And across or irrespective of various criticism, including political criticism, I think it's an undenying fact that Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has indeed resulted into improvement in the public cleanliness. And that has resulted into restricting the spread of disease. And there are quantified reports that India's infant mortality rate has come down. Child mortality rate has come down. Maternal mortality rate has come down. And many diseases are found to have reduced. It won't be wrong to attribute Swachh Bharat Abhiyan as one of the sources. We still have a long way to go. If we just take a walk on any road, then we know what a long way we have. But there is definitely an improvement. Similarly, a program to welcome foreign direct investment into the country, the program titled as Make in India. Its goal is to develop India into manufacturing destination of the world, or manufacturing hub. Until very recently, China was the manufacturing hub. Then in pre-corona times, India had begun to rise as a possible substitute for China. Then, as I have already described, sadly, that India story got disturbed. But I hope you people are noticing now recently that in terms of manufacturing and focused investment in manufacturing sector, and add to that, world's #1 destination for FDI, foreign direct investment. Okay, India has again emerged as #1 now. So among many other reasons, my reason to say that probably we are on the path of comeback, and India's story may once again gather momentum, and its lost rhythm during Corona, a lot remains to be seen. Then, of course, there is this Startup India scheme. Supposed to be augmented by Skill India. And that Skill India program is to be implemented through NSDC. NSDC stands for National Skill Development Corporation. And in education and startup sector also, there is Atal Innovation Scheme. So the new entrepreneurs undertaking innovations and then receiving financial assistance also and government recognition later on. And this major program, which I'm sad to tell you that it doesn't seem to be doing well, that is Smart City. But across all these 4 schemes, actually the defining word to be understood here is demographic dividend. These and many other schemes are aimed at ensuring that India's young population becomes our asset. That is called demographic dividend. Today, demographically speaking, Lokasankhya, India is a young country because more than 65% of population of India is below age 35. That means it's a working population. And this scene is supposed to continue for next 30 years. So if India puts its act together, and by putting its act together, I will summarize it in one program, one line, that is creation of jobs for young generation. Creation of jobs. Then our demography will turn into our asset. So it is demographic dividend, which India is supposed to receive for next 30 years. And if that happens, then it is possible that Indian economy may achieve and sustain double-digit growth rate for 30 years. I do hope you remember in one of my previous sessions, I have told you that China attained double-digit growth rate by 1981 and was able to sustain it for 30 years. That is why by 2011, China emerged as world's second largest economy, an economic powerhouse, a possible superpower, and the challenger to United States of America. In terms of can India do that, the answer is yes. But there are lots of ifs and buts. Some of these programs are aimed at developing the younger generation, developing entrepreneurship amongst them, and ensuring that they get job opportunities. Ayushman Bharat is, hold your breath, world's largest health insurance program. Until Ayushman Bharat was introduced, it's a 5 lakh insurance coverage for almost 80 crore people of India's population. Until this was introduced, world's largest insurance cover program was the one introduced by Barack Obama in United States of America, and that was healthcare for all. It came to be described as Obamacare, and under that Obamacare Act, every single American citizen is covered under health insurance. But that every single American citizen means 34 crore. 34 crore. With Ayushman Bharat, the population which receives coverage under health insurance is over 80 crore. Then Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, something I have already mentioned previously. And also the Digital India program and launching of the app Bheem, Bharat Interface. Whichever way you analyze demonetization, and personally you may like it, you may not, it's perfectly okay. An objective, undeniable fact is Indian economy got more digitalized, which means it comes into the mainstream, which acts as a check on the black money, and therefore the country stands to benefit through Digital India. Similarly, 100% rural electrification was achieved back in 2019. The specific scheme known as Ujjwala aims at providing cooking gas for below poverty line families. Total target is 8 crore. This year's budget has a provision for 1 crore. 1 crore below poverty line families will receive cooking gas connection under Ujjwala scheme. In previous years, the target are declared to be achieved. And at least personally, I have not come across anyone finding fault with it and saying that the figures are wrong and it has not been achieved, etc. So Ujjwala is an important scheme. Another one is housing scheme. And the goal announced by Modi Sarkar, housing for all by 2022. That is another India story that has been disturbed. And I'm not happy to say, but the fact as I see that housing for all by 2022 looks impossible. Looks impossible. Similarly, toilets, but there is a massive campaign for having toilets, which will have a midterm and a long-term effect on improving our health standards. MG Narega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee agency and the scheme implemented through it, gathered greater importance in Corona period, especially. And budgetary provision was increased over there. I must tell you that I am happy that I did not notice that it is past 7:30. I'm also happy that none of you sitting in front of me started having that body language that we are past 7:30. So we are engrossed. But with all due affection for all online students also, the session is supposed to go on till 7:30. We are past it. So let's mention the last one. I know that this presentation consists of 26 slides. And I hope you won't disagree that I have not diverged from the subject for even 1 minute or one sentence, but somehow we have been able to complete 12. There is no point in just rushing remaining 14, man. So let's see when to conduct that. It's possible that if I continue to get response, which I feel today, feel it online also, and your presence, the attentiveness, okay? I need to feel the intelligence with which you are receiving these points. And that, the teacher in me is able to notice the vibes, those are vibes. So we continue our happy journey over there. But the last point for the day will be the scheme of One Nation, One Ration Card that has come into being. That is already, the implementation has already started. Online students also are conveying to me that no problem. And now let us say the prarthana. You people sitting in the classroom, you do upasana also extremely well. Please continue that in prarthana. But in the prarthana, please remember that after every line, there is a gap in which we are supposed to say that line. So, as usual, from the bottom of our heart, paying attention to the meaning of what we are saying, so we focus on Zari Eka Shru Pusaya Sala. Let us say prarthana and continue our journey.
नव्या वैभवाचीच स्वप्ने सजावी, मनी हास्य लेऊन मुक्ती जगावी, हवी फक्त उन्मुक्त निर्माण शक्ती, नवी ध्येय आसक्त प्रल्हाद भक्ती, हवी फक्त उन्मुक्त निर्माण शक्ती, नवी ध्येय आसक्त प्रल्हाद भक्ती, अहंता गळावी अभंगास म्हणता, तपस्येत तल्लीन आतून होता, प्रतिभे समस्तीत आकार यावे, पुरी उत्तमाचेच ओंकार गावे, हवी फक्त उन्मुक्त निर्माण शक्ती, नवी ध्येय आसक्त प्रल्हाद भक्ती, जरी एक अश्रू पुसायास आला, तरी जन्म काहीच कामास आला, जरी अश्रू विस्फोट होऊन सजला, तरी मुक्त ज्वालामुखी जन्म झाला, हवी फक्त उन्मुक्त निर्माण शक्ती, नवी ध्येय आसक्त प्रल्हाद भक्ती, नवी ध्येय आसक्त प्रल्हाद भक्ती, नवी ध्येय आसक्त प्रल्हाद भक्ती,
छान. ऑनलाईनच्या सर्वांना अच्छा. सी यू. Yeah. So many on the online also convey their happiness. I'm always happy. Thank you so much.